So we need to seal up the engine room from the freezer bay in Brupeg. We've got a watertight door here that we salvaged off another boat. We've reconditioned it, so sandblasted it down and fixed any issues that we had on the door. Now it's time to put the seal in and also build the watertight dogs that are going to latch this thing tight. So first off, a bit of a rundown of the door. So you can sort of see it's obviously an aluminium door. It's got hinges with a plastic, or I'm assuming it's like a nylon, something like that, insert to stop any sort of connectivity between the stainless bolt and the aluminium door. We also have this big track that's welded in all the way around, so that's where our rubber sits. And that's what's going to be compressed in order to do the sealing. So it's also got these ribs welded in to give it a bit of stiffness. And then finally over here, this is where the dogs sit. So this also has, eventually we'll have a plastic insert in here to stop any connectivity, but it also has a grease nipple on the bottom of both of these. So this allows us to actually keep this nicely lubricated so that we don't actually have to deal with any sort of, essentially it will allow this to last longer, so we won't be wearing it out. It's not going to be just dry metal on metal. Both of them, top and bottom, there's two dogs in this door, top and bottom have that grease nipple feature.
So we're doing dogs and seals today on our engine bay door, but it's actually one of quite a few doors on Brupeg. So we've got, we're going to finish that, we're going to do the dogs, we're going to do the seal on the door, and we're going to get it closed up. That seals the engine bay from the accommodation. And then we've got the two doors at the back in the lounge.
Side doors.
And the side doors, yep.
Red doors, sorry. Yeah,
and the side doors are interesting because you're going to make them out of alloy, but they've got the pantograph hinges on those, so we've got to get those finished off. We've got to make dogs for those, and of course we've got to seal those as well.
All of the dogs that are on the boat are going to be basically the same design, and the reason we're doing them this way is because it's an incredibly simple design that allows us to basically build 100% of them on with what we've got here. We don't have to get any parts machined or anything like that. So that was something that's been holding us up, is I suppose, like if we were to get someone to machine it, you're probably looking at $100 to $150 per dog, and there's about 16 dogs that need to be done. Whereas if we do it ourselves, I was just trying to rack my brains and let it tinker away in the background, figuring out a way of doing it without having to pay anybody, and we figured out a way.
Tinker.
So we figured out a way of being able to do it without actually having to pay anybody to do it. We can do the whole lot ourselves. They're really easy to build, and so it all hinges around a 1-inch bolt.
Hinges?
Hinges.
Okay, I'll stop with the puns now.
So our dogs hinge off basically a 1-inch stainless bolt. So we create a handle that gets welded onto the back end of this bolt, and then we cut the top third of the bolt off, so we end up with a big flat across the end of the bolt. And what this allows us is to push this through the door, and then we put on obviously washers and so on, go over top of that, and then you've still got this flat left. And what that allows you to do is to make a stainless handle on this side that, instead of just drilling a hole to go over the top, it's basically you can either drill a hole and then weld in a little half round in there to fill up that flat spot, or if it's a big enough bolt, in this case a 1-inch bolt's fine, you can do it, get the plasma cutter and actually cut a D. Instead of a hole, you just cut a D shape, and that allows the handle to slide over and lock in so it can't physically spin, and then you just get a big nylock, crank it back up tight, and you've basically got a welded handle on this side and a bolted handle on this side that perfectly mirror each other. So if you open it on the outside, you can duplicate exactly the same movement on the inside. So
so this is the handle.
So these are some pieces of scrap stainless that we found at this scrapyard. We're going to cut this shape out here, and that's going to be our handle. We're going to weld the bolt onto the bottom down here. So when you go to open the door, you're going to grab up here, and this will be the piece that you sort of swing back and forth to open, and it's basically just turning this bolt 90 degrees.
So the cost what was the cost for the bolts and the?
What do we pay? It was $10 for this, which is probably higher than scrap value, but it's about a fraction of the price of buying it new and, you know, getting it bent or buying bar and bending that and all that sort of
that was the whole find, is that it's already pre-bent the way you want it.
The most expensive bit of the whole thing was actually this nut and bolt. This bolt was $15 and this nut was $9, so they're bloody expensive. It was $54 I think I paid for 2 bolts and 2 nuts and 4 washers.
That's two dogs. That's not bad. That's okay for the overall price.
So yeah, $54, $64 call it, for all of our materials, and that's our door. Our engine room door will be sealed up based on that. So what we're going to do is basically join the bolt to the stainless handle. So I'm using the flat. I've got a piece of 1/2 inch steel. I'm just basically resting it on. It seems to hold the bolt pretty level. And then a piece of 6mm here, which is the distance between the shank and the top of this bolt here. So by doing that, I can pretty much line that up, bang on. Like, it might be 1/2 mil out or something, but that's really okay for what we're doing. So what we're going to do now is just go around and weld all the way around with the 309 wire. Yep, that's pretty good. I'm happy with that. Cool. So that's pretty good. I'm happy with that. It's a nice weld all the way around. So we'll give this a little sandblast just to make everything the same uniform colour and whatever. Just flapper off some of the little bits of slag. There's not much on it, but it's pretty good. Happy with that. So now we're going to go through and make the opposing handle. So we're going to be utilising the flat to help us basically bolt it all together and not move. Alright, so we've got the first half of our dog done. We've cut the flat into the bolt. So now it's time to start fitting these and then figure out how we're going to do the locking mechanism on the other side. So I think I made the door handle too big. Not that way, but sticking out from the door. So
it's quite.
Yeah. Like, it's a good size. You'll be able to crank a lot of pressure. But I think because I made it stick out quite a way to clear this rib.
They're normally like half that, eh? Like,
yeah,
you're kind of a bit closer.
Yeah.
In as you.
It's easy to adjust. I can just cut, like, say 50mm out of that pipe, put it up close and weld all the way around.
I think if you're moving around the motor and around that part of the room, you might just kind of bang into it. This
is the freezer room side.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
is it?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
The other side's quite flush. The other side's fine.
Oh, okay.
The other thing is you've got 100mm of stainless, so you've got this much of stainless before it. Do you see what I mean? I just think we could do better. I think we could put it in.
What's this?
This is the 100mm piece of stainless. That's the actual door frame all the way around.
Oh, so it's actually kind of enclosed in there.
Yeah, but it'll still.
How close to that is it? It's kind of here, isn't it?
It's there. But this will still stick out past the 100mm of stainless.
I think it should go in a little. I think you're right.
Alright, so I could knock off, say, 50mm.
It's kind of cool, like it feels really bushy.
Yeah.
I think I've never seen one that long.
No, I think we need to trim it.
Yeah,
Alright.
just for
That's easy enough to do.
aesthetics, and there's probably a really good reason that we don't know right now that it's.
Well, no, I
it's in a
haven't.
bit.
I haven't made this to any particular design.
I know. It's just the curve. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Definitely.
All right. Cool. So we'll just move it in.
Okay.
Sweet. All right. I'll do it now. That's much better. Right, we'll weld that together and shorten that up. So a trick that I was showing when welding thin stainless or thin pipe in general is rather than trying to set your welder up at a low heat and buzz all the way around in one weld, which is possible but takes quite a bit of skill, is actually go the other way, set your welder up with quite a bit of heat and just do lots and lots of small bursts overlapping each other. The reason you do it that way is you get lots of metal laid down so you can polish the outside off so that you can essentially remove the weld. But the weld goes all the way through the steel and forms a nice bead on the other side. So if you're doing exhaust work and things like that, it's a great way of getting a really nice, good, solid seal all the way around. That was actually shown to me by a guy that builds hot rods in the States, and his exhaust pipe work was just stunning, like polished, show quality work, and that's how he achieved that. So there you have it. Quite a decent sort of chunky weld all the way around that bolt. We've shortened this up. That's where our weld used to sit in there. That's all been polished off, and then when we sandblast this, you won't see any of that. It'll all disappear and look uniform. So pretty happy with how that turned out. Alright, so now that we've got our door handle sitting where we want it, I've got to figure out how to do the latch, because the latch is on this side of the door. So I'm going to make it a bit longer than I need, and then I can always trim later on. So I'm thinking if I make it 100mm, I've got to weld it onto this side of the bolt. So I'm thinking if I make it 100mm, and then I'll do a bit of a brace coming out here as well to take some of the impact. So just got to cut up a bit of stainless to fit that now. So I have a piece of off-cut stainless that I'm going to use. Don't know where I got this from, I think. Oh, actually, one of the trawlers finished up their work and just gave it to me. Cool, so that's kind of standard with Brupeg, because we always end up accumulating other boats' old steel that they don't use, which is awesome because it saves me lots of money. So it's pretty much exactly the size that we want. Okay, so it's 40mm wide is what I need to cut. That's just the width of the bolt. Right, so there's my very technical mark. So I've got 2 latches to do, so I'm just going to cut 2 of these at the same time. So because I'm welding it to the front of the bolt that's welded onto the handle, I just want to get the angle that the bolts are. So if I mark that in, this is not the right size, but that really doesn't matter because it's got the same angles, the same 6 faces will create the same angle there. So I'm going to notch that out, and that'll give me the cutout that I need to be able to join it to the handle that's on the door. So we'll get both of these done now. So because I've got to cut 2 identical pieces, basically one's marked, one isn't, I'm going to just sit them one on top of the other as close as I can get like that, and then basically put it in my vise, cut it out on one, and I know that I've got the identical copy on the other side as well. Because I want this piece of steel to be basically laying flat with this handle. I want it to be in line with this handle and everything, and parallel to the vertical up and down. I've done the notch, so that's the notch we just cut. I've got this clamped in my vise vertical, and I'm just gonna sit that straight on top, and that should be pretty close to being square, or close enough to what we need. So we'll get this welded in now, and then we can start rounding it off and making the edges pretty. So there we have it, 2 dogs. So we've given them a good clean up where we've welded, and we need to get rid of the weld. We've obviously done that. You can see here we've put a round onto the surface here so that it doesn't do any sort of weird jamming in the lock when we make the lock, and then we've radiused the corners off. So that's ready to sandblast. Really happy with how that turned out. So that's our dog fitted onto the door. It's just sitting there for now, it's not bolted up. But that's how the latch works. Basically it'll come down like that, and there'll be a little piece welded into the stainless door frame. So I'll make that also out of stainless, so all of the pieces that hit each other won't rust or anything like that. But that basically should give us something pretty sturdy. I may end up welding a little gusset in here later. It just depends on if I have to trim this back. I want to make it sort of fairly tight against that, but that'll stop this piece here from basically being able to bend over time. So this is my piece of scrap stainless that I was going to use. It's 6mm thick. I was hoping to do the arms 50mm wide, but it gets this piece of scrap tapers off as it gets closer to the end. So I'm going to drop the width down to 40mm, because then I can stick them side by side and still get 2 arms out of a short piece at this end here. So we've got our hole cut out, it's all nice and neat, pretty pleased with that. And we've got our 1-inch bolt we welded on earlier that we've got the flat that we cut in. So what we're going to do now is we've got to slide that on. Now until we have a flat in here, these won't work as handles, they'll just flop around. Normally I would try and plasma that shape out, however my plasma cutter's currently gallivanting around on a holiday at a warranty claim, so we're going to use a hole saw just like we've cut out. I'll clean it up and I'll get that to slide on. This is the piece that we cut out on this here. What I'm going to do is slice off basically the top corners, and I'm going to put that in there at the right sort of layout, and then just weld it in. So I'll split these apart, I'll grind these all up now and split them apart, and then we'll get into doing this piece here. Once we've done that, we can bolt our handles together. Righto, so we've got our handles. I've polished them all up. You can sort of see the edges are all basically rounded off. So these are going to be sandblasted, so they'll come up much prettier than what they are now. But what I've done is created 2 of these little keys, I suppose you'd call them, or half rounds, whatever you want to know the best. The plan is I need to match them up. So this handle will be going on this side, like that. And then that key gets put in there and tack welded shut. So that means that this handle here will replicate whatever this handle does. So this is the engine bay side, this is the freezer room side, lock is on the freezer room side, and I'll just bend this out to get a nice distance away from the wall. But that key there is the whole reason this thing will work or won't work. Alright, so that works perfect. Really happy with that. So now I want to get a bit of distance between this handle and the aluminium door. I'm going to take the whole thing apart and I'm going to bend the stainless handle. Alright, so by putting a couple of slots in it like that, you can see you're able to bend it really easily. So I'll just go and fill those up with weld, one on either side. I'll fill those up with weld and then just give them a quick polish off with a flapper wheel, and we've got a perfectly good bent arm. So she's a bit of a beast. The full handle there, she's a wee bit stiff at the second because there's no lubrication in this whatsoever. But there you go. So bolted up, big old nylock, so it shouldn't come undone in a hurry. As I push the back handle down, that one there gets moved along. And you can see there's lots of clearance now between the aluminium door and that handle, so should be no issue to get your hands jammed in anywhere. It should be plenty okay at the moment. So now that I know what I'm doing, I'm going to go ahead and make the second dog, and then yeah, we'll get the seal in and we'll get this door on board. So what I've got to do with this foam, it's basically a square section. I've got to put contact adhesive. I'm going to use this aerosol contact adhesive. So I need to spray it on one side and then also spray it on one side in this track here on the aluminium door, and then give it a few minutes to tack off so that when you put your finger in it like that, you don't leave any fingerprints or anything in it. And then I just need to press them together. Once I press them together, there's no chance of moving this. It just won't go anywhere. So I need to yeah, I've never used this spray foam before, this adhesive before, so I just need to test a little bit and just see what it's like, and yeah, just make sure it's going to be good enough for what we need. So I need to figure out what's going to give me the best results gluing this rubber to aluminium. So I've got a piece of scrap alloy and a piece of just an offcut of the rubber. And first time I've used this spray adhesive, so I'm just going to figure out what results basically work for me, and yeah, how to get the best sort of adhesion between the two surfaces. Alright, so I think I got it sussed. This stuff, I need to put 2 layers on it, 2 coats, so that there's like no gaps or anything like that, but man, she's on there bloody good. And that's completely unprepared aluminium or rubber, so the door's all sandblasted, so hopefully it's got a bit more bite to it to hold, but yeah, that's not coming off, so that'll do us. So there you have it, so all sealed up. So the rubber that we used, ideally I would have probably liked to get slightly thicker than what we've got, but that was all that the shop that we went to had. So yeah, other than that, I'm really stoked with that. I reckon that's going to be really watertight. So let's get this thing in the engine bay and bolt her up. So the door's in, doesn't fit. So what I've noticed is the rubber, because I had to do a guesstimate of how thick I needed that rubber, so the rubber itself is quite thick. It's about, I think, 25mm thick. So what I need to do is actually trim a little bit of the stainless lip off all the way around the door, probably take maybe 5mm off all the way around the door, because when I go to close it, it's jamming up, next to the hinges, it's jamming up too tight, too early. Doesn't allow me to close the door fully to be able to latch it. So this is the accommodation side of this door, and you can see we're having issues with it shutting. The rubber is too thick, so we need to basically take this rubber out and we're going to put a thinner piece of rubber into the door, and that'll allow this door to close right up, and then these, I'll make some little stainless tags that weld onto the side of this so that these latches hook up underneath each of the tags. So we'll head on through and I'll show you what we've done in the engine bay. This seal is 25mm thick from the surface that it's glued to, and we've got a seal on order that's 19mm thick, so 6mm shorter, which should be enough basically to allow us to close this door up. But that's not going to be here until next week, so until now this door's pretty much on hold. Once we've got that seal, we can go through then and start finishing off. There's only a little bit left to do on it, and then this door's done. So we're really appreciative of the support that our viewers get through to the project. Every bit counts, and it makes an enormous difference. We couldn't have started the engine without our Patreons helping to finance, you know, the parts that we need. The winch, that was financed by our Patreons as well, so it's really critical if you're ever wondering what it means to projects like ours to help them get into the water, or you know, to get through to fruition. It really makes a huge difference. So I just wanted to say thanks for everybody that signed up and everybody that's thinking about it. Cheers.
I heard you want to leave this place where we grew up. This old town, just put it all behind. Remember you and I would always find somewhere to hide when we were kids, so we could see and hear the water run. The river's gonna